Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now, we are joined by Neil, Brian's Logic, Righteous Force, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Let's get it on!
Yes, indeed. Let's get it on. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge that's a horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
No, there never has been any. It's been debunked anyway with long-distance photography, Black Swan, and everything else.
Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Nope, you don't see that. Even if you hover a drone, stationary drone, you don't see any apparent movement from it with the Earth spinning underneath it. It's all lies.
Any evidence of the distance to the Sun?
The school books say 93 million miles away, but I don't think that's evidence.
You'll need an R value for that. Any evidence of the R value, that's Earth radius?
When you look into the R value, all you'll find is the elevation angle measurement taken from a flat baseline. No mention of any curves.
Any evidence you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline?
Negative. It's an impossibility.
Any evidence that level is not horizontal?
No.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
You'd first have to observe a natural phenomena, and that's never been done. So you can't have any scientific proof of that.
I just dropped my keys. Is that a natural phenomenon? Or leaves just fell off a tree?
Oh yeah, I mean, if it was something naturally falling, you could science that. It has been done. See Anthony Riley's experiment. Speaking of which, any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Hello.
Hey, Arwin.
Nope. It's impossible. The entire field rests on the premise that has presuppositions in it, and so it can never, a viable hypothesis could never be attained within those fields.
Any evidence you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
Well, we wouldn't be here talking about it if it was. If it was.
I'm really trying to think. I mean, you need a container to demonstrate anything.
Well, demonstrate gas pressure, or examples with gas pressure, including but not limited to gas pressure gradients, because they're inclusive of gas pressure, needing a container to press upon.
You need a container to exist in order to perform an experiment.
That's true.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Yeah, I know that's not in the rhetoric, but this is like the 100,000th time I've heard someone mention volcanoes just the other day.
Volcanoes, what have they got to do with molten iron cores?
Saying, where is it coming from? Where is this volcanic lava coming from? It has to be coming from the molten iron core.
No, it doesn't. It comes from tectonic activity. We keep covering this. According to the current rhetoric, the ring of fire is as a result of the friction at the tectonic plate edges where they meet, rub against each other, generate heat, and create a pool below the surface level, below the crust. So,
Oh,
no.
really? Who said that?
Well, that's just what it teaches in basic high school geography. Just open any high school geography book and have it show you what they describe with tectonic activity in the ring of fire. You know, that's what it's described as.
Has anybody been there and done that? Seen it?
I don't know if it's true. I'm just saying that it's not the same rhetoric. It's not the same as them saying, well, it's coming from the molten iron core. There's little tubes, you know, 3,000 miles down that come all the way up to the top. There isn't. That's not part of the rhetoric. Regardless of if the new rhetoric, the tectonic claim is true or not. I don't know if that's true or not either. It makes no odds. Is there any evidence of a molten iron core?
I think they're trying to smash them together somehow. You're going to be hearing about it more and more.
Okay.
If we've got no evidence of R, then we can't have a molten iron core, can we?
No. Did we cover them all? Is that all of the housekeeping questions covered? I think we did.
What about it if sorry about stepping in, but is there any evidence that great circle roots are circles?
I like that one.
I'm going to need some more qualification on that at some point, Brian. I understand what Polaris is used for. I understand that you're getting areas of equal elevation to be described as latitude, right, with that fixed star. In other words, you move back away from it, the angle decreases as the star drops, the Polaris star drops towards the horizon, and then you can say, well, the area of equal elevation is X latitude, because that's where they've derived that concept from, right? But when you say a circle root isn't a circle, why not?
Because the great circle roots are claimed to be basically the length of two longitude lines. Longitude lines are horizontal measurements. The latitude and longitude grid, which is where they get their great circle roots, is a polar coordinate system. Polar coordinate systems, just like XY coordinate systems, are purely flat coordinate systems. They are not curved. They are horizontal at all times. There's a claim that there is such a thing called great circle roots. And when I've asked, let's say Wolfie, who was a commercial pilot, to prove that great circle roots are actually circles, all he can do is insult me because he can't prove it. Because there is no proof, because they're not circles. That's my point. So is there any evidence that great circle roots are circles? Is a valid question. Because there is a claim out there that great circle roots are circles, and these circles circle the outside circumference of a globe Earth with a radius of 3959 miles. But they would have to support that they're circles, and not just straight line routes. What do you think?
Aren't they just the circle route after they've applied the Haversine formula to turn a straight line angular measurement into a curved circle?
Well, yeah, that's the thing about it. I mean, what are they going to produce? The Haversine formula? That's not proof that you're flying a circle route, is it? Because if you're flying an airplane and you're following what they're calling a great circle route, that means you have to be flying at least part of a circle, you know, as your route. But airplanes don't do that. That's why commercial pilot Wolfie 6020 just insulted me when I asked them 2 different times.
Okay. Maybe
and refused to answer.
Fair enough. Yeah, maybe we need to do a bit more on this.
Hey,
Okie
Nathan,
dokie.
it's at 5 minutes on the video where he gets to his points. But if you want to get to the Neil deGrasse Tyson one, it's cool too.
I didn't know that somebody had shared a Neil deGrasse Tyson one, to be honest, but well, I've got this up and I've shared the link to the live audience. So this is Dave McKeegan. Not the most popular of people, but there we go. Such is life. But we're going to cover some of his nonsense. We covered his boring intro in the pre-show if you want to check it out as a member, or if you're not a member, become a member. Or if you think it looks unprofessional that I've not got YouTube Premium because I'm too poor, then tough luck. This is as professional as it gets.
There are 5 observations that every individual can make about the moon. No, this is not a...
So not a good start then if this is his proofsies. So we're starting with the moon. So you're going to be proving Earth spherical with a light in the sky. Okay, not a good start.
hypotheticals or anything. This is stuff that you can physically go outside yourself, anywhere in the world, watch the moon, you will see these same observations.
About the moon? Okay, so we're going to go out and we're going to watch this about the moon. This isn't going to end well, I can tell you that.
Observation 1, the moon is...
No, whoa. Observation 1. Has anybody ever seen this clean Terminator line? Like this? Is this the backside of the moon that we're seeing? I'm thinking no. This doesn't look like a picture of the moon. This looks like an artist rendering from a weird angle with a strange Terminator line. Because that doesn't look like that to me.
Is round. Now...
Yeah, round, okay. I mean, you can infer that it's spherical from that roundness. You haven't done that, though. We've just said it's round. Okay, point 1. Anybody going to disagree with him? Moon looks round. At some point. Anybody? No? Nobody's disagreeing with you.
No.
I've never actually seen a flat earther try and argue that the moon is flat, to be fair. They all, I think...
So round is flat. Round is two-dimensional. Your description is flat. So what the bloody hell are you babbling about when you've just used a two-dimensional description of it? Round. What the bloody hell? Oh, this guy's a complete mong.
Agree the moon is a ball.
No, I don't agree that the moon's a ball. I don't know that whatsoever. I don't know what the moon is. Now, you beg the question and assume it's a sphere, but how are you going to infer that from just telling me that it's round occasionally in certain phases? You're just going to move from round to spherical without knowing why or telling us why. That's pretty useless. I mean, I'm not going to pull apart the things you haven't said because you haven't said them. But this is crap.
I mean, there's debates about how big...
Is that it? Bit of stuttering and then move on to the debates? Where's your proof? See that it's a sphere? I mean, I haven't even got anything to pull apart.
it is, how far away it is, or what it is made of, but I think...
You'll need R for that. In terms of the distance to the moon, that's based on an R value that you assume for a sphere Earth that you assume, and then a superimposed R value onto Venus to apply Kepler's third law. You will need an R value, and we have debunked it when it comes to your moon distance, so no. No, keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate, my friend.
I think everyone agrees it's a ball.
No, we don't agree. What you think everybody agrees, have you asked everybody, bonehead? Clearly not.
You can see it's a ball by the shadow casts off it.
Oh, really? So maybe you want to look into specular reflections and how your heliocentric moon is claimed to be lit by the sun, to know that it isn't.
The fact that throughout the month, throughout the phases, you see that curve.
We don't see what we've just been shown either. You know, that isn't how it appears to us. You know, what it's doing is showing a time-lapse over a prolonged period that's probably been created in a CGI program. Because this isn't how you'd get a time-lapse of it, and how it wouldn't appear. I have seen very carefully constructed time-lapses of the moon going through its phases, but this doesn't look like that. This looks like some CGI crap that is dug up.
Curved shadow around
Nathan.
the edge of it, and it's always...
Yes.
I just want to say, yeah, I agree with you there, because I've photographed the moon myself, and I've zoomed in as best as I can. I have a good zoom camera, and the dark part of the moon, whether daytime, nighttime, you can't see it. You can't see it. You just can't see what's there. There's a line and once you go past this line, you can't see what's there. So any CGI that's showing the dark part of the moon where you can kind of see it, that's all. Anybody that sees that, they're not seeing the real moon, they're seeing CGI. And where did he prove that it was a shadow?
Well, he might move on to the inference of libration. If he does, fine, because with a time lapse and a lot of inference, I can take that as a stretch if he uses it. We'll see. He might use it.
The shadow is backside to the sun. So observation.
No, that's your assumption in a heliocentric orbital motion. Backside to the sun. My arse. No, if you assume orbital motion.
Observation 1, the moon is a sphere.
No. By assumption, you say it's a sphere. And by assumption, it's in an orbital motion already. You haven't demonstrated this. You haven't proven this. You're just assuming it.
Observation 2.
Whoa, you didn't prove observation 1, you just pointed at it and then made an assumption. 2, in fact. Sphericity and orbital motion. Those are assumptions you haven't proven. Number 1, to beg the question of them, you need an R value. So you can impose it on Venus and apply Kepler's third law to give you distances and scaling values and orbital motions. We've debunked all of this.
At any given time of the year, from anywhere in the world, the moon always appears the same size. Now, the moon
Appears the same size, like apparent. Apparent size. Appears apparent. Yeah. So what? That's not actual size, you realise. So let's see where it goes with this not actual size of the moon from various locations.
moon does change in size slightly throughout the
Sorry, it doesn't change in size, apparent size, but now it does change in size throughout the year. No. You're describing an apparent size of a light in the sky.
year as its orbit gets maybe a bit closer.
So orbit, what, you're just assuming orbits, moving your hand around, is that your proof C? Is this moving your hand around a proof C of an orbit? No, we debunked it. It needs an R value assumption. It needs a spherical assumption for all the lights in the sky. It needs a gravitational assumption. It needs a planets falling around stars with stars being absolutely colossal assumption. And it needs an R value. So no, you moving your hand around to camera doesn't prove orbit.
Or a bit further away.
Nathan.
But on
Yeah, sorry. Is there any evidence of Jan? Has anyone ever seen the actual size of the moon to claim it has an angular size?
No,
'Cause
they have not.
Same with the sun. I've never seen the actual size. I've only been told about an angular size, but you'd need to know the actual size to even claim it has an angular size, would you not? How do you make that claim?
I can. I just couldn't move my mouse fast enough. Shout out to Rubenson, Gaydon. I don't know how to say your surname. I'm really sorry. But thank you very much for the super chat. It says, happy to be a member of this think tank. Well, pleasure.
Gideon, I think it is.
Gideon. Perfect. Thank you very much for the super chat. Really appreciate the support.
on any given night, any given string of night,
Any given string of night. It's not even a sentence.
you view the moon from
Man, this is a clusterfuck. Spit it out.
anywhere on.
Why didn't you edit this out? This is a pre-recorded video, right? This isn't live. You didn't need that. If I was editing this, you didn't need that. Would have got edited out. Lazy bastard.
Earth, it always appears the same size. Doesn't matter whether you're up in
Apparent size appears the same size. That's apparent size, not actual size.
the north, in the UK or Scandinavia, you're on the equator in Mexico, or you're over
On
in
the equator? What's that? Can you show it me?
Australia, the moon is always the same size.
Its apparent size doesn't change. You mean it's not actual size? Clown shoes. This means nothing.
All across the world. Observation 3.
Right, proving what? Right, observation 2 proves nothing. Because you don't understand the difference between actual size, that's its measured size, feet, inches, meters, centimeters, versus apparent size. You use the word because you've got a vague notion that that's how it's described, but you don't know what they mean, do you? You don't know what these words mean. Because point 2 proves nothing.
Is that from any spot on the Earth, you watch the moon through the night, it will always stay the same size from your vantage point.
Isn't this the same as point 2? So your crap point about apparent size of the moon, point 2 was concluded. Moving on to point 3, apparent size of the moon. Are you padding out this a little bit? This crap demonstration with apparent size of the moon. It needs to be 2 points, does it? Okay.
You can see it come up from one horizon, transit all the way across the sky, and down below the other horizon.
Below the other horizon? No, that would infer that you've got a physical geometric sphere edge for a horizon for it to go below. Like beyond. You think the moon's falling over the edge of your Earth curve horizon, do you? We've debunked that as well. So it's not going below the horizon. Definitely not. We've debunked your Earth curve edge, my friend.
And it stays the same size all the way.
Apparent size? Not actual size. Look up apparent, bonehead.
Across. Observation 4.
Right, what did observation 2 and 3 prove again? Absolutely nothing.
Is that despite it being a sphere, we only ever...
Why is it a sphere? You've got CGI rendering of what they claim happens when you watch libration occur. But this CGI rendering where you can see all sides of the moon all the time isn't how the moon appears in my telescope. When I did, I haven't anymore. But when I did, this isn't what it looked like.
Ever see the same face. Again, doesn't matter where you are in the world, only ever one side of the moon shows...
So that would infer that it's not spherical then, doesn't it?
Towards the
Like,
Earth.
that's debunking your assertion, you dumbo.
Earth?
You'd think if it was spherical, you'd see some three-dimensionality to it, wouldn't you? Yeah, you'd be able to see around it a bit? No. Even with the orbital mechanics, which have just got apologetics for why you can't see it as a sphere. But you're using that as a proof, see? Totally brainwashed.
Observation 5, despite the fact that we all only see one face of the moon...
What, debunking the notion that you assume it's a sphere?
The orientation of that face changes depending on where you are viewing it from. More specifically, it changes depending on your latitude on...
Latitude? What's that? How's that been derived? So you're describing where you'll see it with latitude, which is a concept that's been derived from a flat plane elevation angle measurement to Polaris. So depending on your flat Earth elevation angle measurement to Polaris, it changes its orientation. No, I've observed it. What it does, depending on position, or time if you stay still, how long you wait for it to move through the sky, it rolls. So I've heard it described as being a wagon wheel through the sky, because it rolls. Now your libration over a month, then juxtaposed with what it'll do throughout the night, is not in any way comparable. Your CGI renderings taken from the notion of what it does throughout its phases. That's libration. As opposed to how it traverses the sky as you watch it. And it rolls its position through the night. The face moves around in a rolling motion. So you obviously haven't observed the moon. I have. And it doesn't do what you're saying.
On the Earth. Now, that is... That's not making assumptions about the shape of the Earth or anything.
Yeah, it is. You made loads of assumptions. You assumed orbital motion. You assumed sphericity and declared it. The only reason you've got a spherical moon is because of a heliocentric orbital motion it's in. That's assuming Earth's a sphere. My God, this guy is thick. Why are you talking on this subject? You are a clown and have no idea about heliocentrism. Now me, I shouldn't have to know, but I know more about it than you do. It shouldn't be the case. You should be an expert. If you're going to talk on this subject, you shouldn't have to have flat earthers correcting you on your own wrong assertions about the heliocentric model that you don't understand. Learn your own model.
Anything there, that is just 5 observations that we all can make about...
And mean nothing. And include apologetics for why you haven't got a spherical assumption to make about the moon. What a bonehead.
The moon, and any model of the Earth has to...
Models are pseudoscience. Who cares? Models aren't reality. We're not living on a bloody model.
...to be able to account and conform with those 5 observations. So let's try and fit those 5 observations...
What, that didn't prove anything and assumed orbital motion?
...into a flat Earth model.
Why? Have I presented you with a flat Earth model? Are you allowed to hold up your little straw man false dichotomy? So, like most amateurs, they revert to what they've been trained at the Feast of Nonsense when they got here for an anti-flat earther, which is offer up a straw man false dichotomy. Their model. What model? Models are pseudoscience. We're not living on a bloody model. So what are you going to burn here? Oh, right, the false dichotomy versus your model you've assumed with orbital motion. No, this is crap. This is really basic entry-level fallacy use.
Observation 1, the moon is round, okay? That can fit.
Okay. Round, what, two-dimensional, like it's going to be drawn here. Not spherical. Can't be drawn in that way on a two-dimensional screen.
We can have a moon orbiting around the...
Orbiting? So your assumption of an orbital motion is around a sphere. So you've now transposed what is the azimuthal equidistant projection of a sphere based on a derivation from the celestial sphere with flat Earth elevation angle measurements to Polaris drawn on this map. So it's gone from flat Earth elevation angle measurement to globe by way of Haversine, back to flat in the form of the azimuthal equidistant projection. And then you've got what you're calling an orbit when you put a flat disk moon that's a circle, two-dimensional in nature, on top of a flat projection of a globe projection of a flat Earth angle measurement to Polaris with latitude. That's what you've actually got here. Not that you know any of that. You just say flat Earth model. It isn't. It's using latitude, the principle that's come from a flat Earth, to give you an excuse to have a flat map. So you could say it's a globe projection.
Around the Earth, and it can be round. That's not a problem.
Not a problem. This map doesn't work in that way. It works from the centre out.
Now, flat earthers say that...
Do we? Stereotyping, fallacy, or baseless assertion to come?
The moon and the sun are both about 3,000 miles away.
Do we? No, we do not. I do not make that claim. I ask people like you, Bonehead, who have a 93 million mile sun and a 250,000 mile moon, how they get their distances. And it requires an R value. But what are you doing based on the fact that you are the one with the positive claim of a distance to the moon and you are the one with the positive claim of a distance to the sun, and now charging us because of the Feastler nonsense crap that's peddled about what flat earthers believe before we even found the subject? We've got a distance of 3,000 miles, have we? No, mate. No, we understand that the principle of elevation angle measurements won't allow you to derive the height of these celestial objects. Yeah, but that would mean understanding the principles of celestial navigation and the measurement to angles to the stars. So no, definitely not. We wouldn't make that assertion. It's stupid to make such an assertion when you understand what the stars do. You get the same angle to them when you raise in height. So you can't derive height from them. You boneheads do, with flat Earth angle measurements to back your claims.
They don't buy this idea.
Why does he keep stuttering? Why don't you edit out your crappy stuttering?
The moon is 750,000 miles away and that the sun is 93 million miles away.
Yeah, so that's your claim. So what you're going to offer up your claim, no justification for it, just here's my claim. Now let's take apart a flat Earth, the strawman claim that we're not making because we understand why you couldn't make it.
And that the sun is 400 times bigger than the moon. They think they're both about...
sorry, that's your claim. Are you going to back that now? That shite that you believe because you were trained in it when you were small? You're going to just parrot that off because it's true and then take apart something that nobody's claiming here. I'm not claiming this 3,000-mile straw man you're about to claim, but I can actually take apart your claim of a massive sun 93 million miles away based on an R value superimposed onto Venus and Kepler's third law of interplanetary motion based on an assumption of orbits. Yeah, I can take apart your straw man for an Earth we're not living on, and you don't understand because the claim you're actually making, you think you don't need to justify. Just say it, and then take apart a claim we're not making. What a bloody outrage. Another shout out to Rubenson. Thank you very much for the super chat. We need to fund Nathan Oakley 1980 for a scientific experiment. He'll be unstoppable. We've already got one. Just go and check out Anthony Riley's channel. Sleeping Warrior's done an experiment that debunks gravity. It observes the natural phenomena of some things going down, some things going up, some things remaining neutral. And he explains it by way of cause and effect reasoning with a validated hypothesis. So yeah, we've done experiments. I say we. Anthony has. I haven't. Although I did do that, I just didn't formulate a hypothesis 3 years ago or 5 years ago probably now when I did that with the egg. Anthony did it properly, turned it into science. So loads of people did it. I can think of a Phuket word off the top of my head also did the same thing with the egg to make the point. And I'm sure I did make the point. Anthony took it and formulated it into a scientifically valid experiment. But thank you very much for the super chat. Really appreciate your support.
Anthony is ace.
Anthony is ace.
About the same size, and they're both about 3,000 miles away. So,
you've got your claim that you haven't validated or in any way justified, and you've got our claim that we didn't make and know why you wouldn't make it based on the behaviour of the stars when you're measuring angles to them, and that angle not changing regardless of your altitude. Hence, people on airplanes can use sextants the same as they are used on boats, with no adjustment, in spite of them being at 30,000 feet. So yeah, no, we definitely wouldn't assert this shite about the height of the moon. But it seems you're about to burn it in false dichotomy without actually justifying your claim that we can take apart, because we understand it. And you don't, just to point that out one more time, you don't understand your own globe claim.
we now have a spherical ball 3,000 miles above the equator of the Earth.
Equator, something that's been derived from an elevation angle measurement across a flat plane to Polaris, the outside edges, the extremities of the area of equal elevation for Polaris. That's what the equator is. But now you're going to put a ball above this flat pancake that's actually a global projection based on latitudes that have come from an angle measurement from a flat plane to Polaris. You don't know what you're doing, mate. I can just say, this is the failure of the global projection bit in the azimuthal equidistant projection. Because it's a globe projection, that's why it fails, Dumbo. I mean, I wouldn't use this model and don't claim it. You do realise that you're taking apart two flat Earth models. Globe and this azimuthal equidistant projection both came from the same latitude derivation based on angle measurements to Polaris from a flat plane.
Earth. Except the Earth is, well, we're not entirely sure how wide the flat Earth is.
Well, why didn't you find out? I mean, it's your straw man that you're burning. The reason you don't know is because you're making this up. I haven't made a claim about how bloody wide things are. So you don't know because the straw man's incomplete. Yeah, they don't give you enough information, do they? You've not come and researched what we actually claim. Just did a quick Google search. And then played with your dog.
Spherical Earth is just shy of 8,000 miles across.
Because, as evidenced by... We'll see if he does and then we'll debunk it.
Which presumably if you stretch out a flat Earth...
Oh, he didn't. He just moved straight onto the straw man he's pulling apart. That he's burning. So here's my claim, no evidence given. Now here's the claim I'm going to burn that isn't even their claim. If the Earth was a sphere radius 3959 miles, then every distance to the horizon could be measured no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. And the distance to the horizon in the black swan image is beyond the geometric limitations of an Earth sphere radius 3959. Therefore, the Earth is not a sphere radius 3959, and the horizon is not a sphere edge. You cannot derive the R value for your assertion, therefore your assertion that you didn't back in any way, shape or form fails. I don't have to defend this shite on screen. I didn't claim it.
Assuming they stick with that idea that
Assuming, yeah, you're damn right. That's the most appropriate word you've used so far because that's all you've done.
the equator is 8,000 miles across.
Assuming the equator is derived from a flat Earth elevation angle measurement from Polaris to its outside limitations when plotted as an area of equal elevation in a 2D Cartesian coordinate system called an azimuthal equidistant projection. So no, mate, it seems like you don't understand how any of these models work and clearly haven't actually discussed this with any real flat earthers. Just a cursory search followed by your repetition of what the Flat Earth Society says.
That then puts the entire Earth at about 15,000 miles across.
Oh, so you do know how
Except
big
that
the
then
flat
means
Earth
with the
is
moon
then?
above the equator, on any given night,
Says who? You couldn't measure this angle to get this height. So this is nonsense. We can debunk both of your flat Earth to globe Earth projections onto flat maps or kept as a sphere in a straw man false dichotomy. We can debunk all of this, even the aspects that are wrong about a flat Earth that you're claiming.
any country on the equator...
Just for the audience's benefit, did you notice that I said that you're claiming? He's claiming this flat Earth. This is his claim now, not mine.
The moon is 3,000 miles away from...
You think it's 3,000 miles away, do you, dumb shit? Wow, what a bonehead. I mean, if you were here claiming that as a flat earther, you'd have your head ripped off, so I'll rip it off even though you're not. No, the moon's not 3,000 miles up, Dumbo. How did you measure that? What about if you wait a few minutes when the moon goes further away and the angle drops? Are you going to claim it's 3,000 miles then? You're going to struggle to when it's right above the horizon. Is it still 3,000 miles then? Oh yeah, we're dealing with apparent sizes of the moon, right? Not actual height above the deck when it moves towards the horizon. Yeah, not actually going over a physical geometric sphere edge horizon. And none of that works, Dumbo. So no, your claim of 3,000 mile high moon is stupid. You can debunk that stupid nonsense also.
From them directly up. And yet, a country in, say, the Northern Hemisphere, 3,000
Sorry, Northern Hemi what now? Where's the Hemi what now on this? Sphere? Northern Hemisphere? That sounds very much like you begging the question of your ultimate outcome that you haven't in any way demonstrated or proven or offered evidence for. The hemisphere? Begging the question a little bit much? Yeah, completely. Shout out to Twad Wazzle, who says, I've done as promised, Nathan. Enjoy your beer, bruv. I don't know what that means, but I will. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat. Really appreciate the support. Anybody got anything to add on this dude? No? Just for summary, if you've just joined us, we're covering Dave McKeegan. We'll actually share his show. Not that anybody ever does this to me when they get 150,000 views for commenting about what I've said. But there we go, that's life. Share the love, hopefully you'll grow. Much love to you as a YouTuber, by the way. Dave.
miles away from...
Forward, Nathan.
Indeed, there's 100 people watching. I mean, if he grows, for all I know, he'll get this response, understand all of the stupid false dichotomies, all of the stupid straw men, all of his stupid assertions about 3,000 mile moons being wrong, and go, oh, wow, thank you very much. You know what? I'll become a Nathan Oakley 1980 member. Hopefully I'll learn a bit more from this think tank. On the other hand, he may not. But if he did, I'd be regretting not sharing his information, wouldn't I?
The equator, seeing that same moon, the distance that they're viewing the moon from is over 4,000 miles.
Really? Would that change if it got closer to the horizon? Apparently. What do you think? Do you think that would change the angle to it? Given that that's the basis of how celestial navigation works and how you derive latitude. Do you understand how this contradicts the way the map works with its latitude lines? No, you don't, do you, Dumbo? Because you're dumb. Yeah? If you're standing in this location and the moon goes away from you towards the horizon, does that ultimately change the angle and the height claim? Yeah, it would, wouldn't it? Yeah, it'd make this line shorter. You Dumbo. You don't understand any of this stuff, do you? You're out of your depth. Keep your mouth shut about flat Earth and globe Earth, especially about globe Earth, because you haven't got a clue.
Which means they're seeing the moon about 40% further away than people on...
I'll try it again. Dumbo, write this down. Apparent. It means not actual.
the equator, which means the...
Equator's derived from flat Earth angle measurements to Polaris, Dumbo?
Given relative distance...
Relative distance or apparent?
The moon should actually be close to half the...
Should it, based on apparent measurements of it? Not actual sizes and not actual distances? I'm thinking no. What we can derive from the moon and its position is GP locations, where it's above, like directly above. So if you were standing below it, the moon would be at your zenith. That's useful for navigation. Of course, you need a flat Earth to do it.
Size, when viewed from, say, the UK, than it should when viewed from a country on the equator.
Isn't that interesting that you understand this principle of how stuff gets smaller into the distance, but when it comes to assertions about how the begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator works, the distances versus the heights of buildings doesn't change ever with distances. So you've got a 30-foot building being a 30-foot building at all distances in the maths for Earth curve, yet suddenly when you take apart a straw man, you can do it with perspective. Yet this is the apparent size change. This ball hasn't changed in actual size, Dumbo. Its apparent size has changed? angular size? Yeah, something that's very much lacking in your Earth curve assertion, my friend. Maybe you want to look into that.
That doesn't conform. The only
Doesn't conform. It isn't even included when you make assertions about Earth being a sphere with a sphere-edge horizon for these balls you call the moon to orbit around. It's not even included. It's hijacked.
way to have no visible variation in the perceived size of the object like that
Would be to put it into a begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator and ascribe a centimetre value to that ball. And in the Earth curve maths, when it started to disappear from view because it got too small, it would only be described as being obscured by an Earth curve edge. Because you're not describing how things get smaller into the distance when you decide to label them as blocked by Earth curve in the maths. So maybe you want to look into the primary argument for Earth curve before you start babbling on about perspective, because you'll find that some flat earther named Nathan Oakley 1980 comes along and absolutely humiliates you and points out that your assertion about how things should have accounts for perspective when detailing the moon are sorely lacking when you say that there's a feet and inches value missing from the bottom of a building or boat. Because that does not include perspective, Dumbo. Wow. Amateur. Yeah, this is a big pitfall that you should have avoided as an anti-flat earther, my friend. Because you're talking about something that's not in Earth curve maths.
that is to have it much further away. If you put the moon 250,000 miles away, above the equator, to a country...
The equator, something that's been derived from flat Earth elevation angle measurements to Polaris. So the equatorial plane. Yeah? Do you not know what the equator is? Do you not know the history of this word you're using? Clearly not. That's why you're being humiliated by a flat earther in response to your amateur attempt to understand your own religious belief.
That is 3,000 miles away from the equator.
Why would you assert this? Because I'm just going to take it apart as your claim, you stupid idiot. The moon drops towards the horizon from your location as you watch it. Does that mean it's getting lower? Ooh, thick.
That distance that it is seeing the moon from now becomes 250,018 miles.
No, it doesn't. Because the angles that they use when they triangulate the moon to give it the supposition of our insertion doesn't work when the moon moves towards the horizon. That's not how it's done. It's done by superimposing the R value for a presupposed spherical Earth onto Venus and the application of Kepler's third law. That's how you get your distances. You don't know your own religion.
Nathan.
Which...
Yes.
It's this guy talking about the angular position of the moon above the Earth.
Yes.
Angular, that would be an elevation angle, where the baseline would be horizontal from the observer to the GP point of that moon.
That's correct.
And that's some kind of a globe proof.
That's a flat Earth proof.
Yeah.
Perspective and angle measurements, that's what he's using. That's why I keep calling him an amateur. He's fallen into 3 massive anti-flat Earth pitfalls. That's what he's done. Falling into 3 massive gaping chasms, one after the next. Because you're talking about the indefensible use of perspective when describing things. Not included in Earth curve maths. Then he's talking about the angular size measurements of the apparent view of the moon. Yeah, that's going to require a flat Earth, mate. Oh, my God. I really like this. Gene, I take it all back. This was epic.
Is only a 0.007% increase.
What, in angular size? Not actual size?
Not enough for us to perceive that.
Perceive? What, like apparent? Like not actual? He's saying the words. Go on.
No, you're saying if you couldn't perceive it, then how come he has an exact calculation? Or I suppose an exact measurement? Then someone had to have perceived it if he can come up with 0.007, whatever. You know what I mean? His logic is all over the place. And that's an angular size. for this guy, what's this man's name, Nathan? Dave, is it?
It's Dave
whoever he is.
MCKEEGAN, but you're absolutely spot on. What he's doing is he's bullshitting his way around stuff he doesn't understand. That's why he keeps stuttering. I was asking earlier, why do you keep stuttering? It's because he doesn't know what he's talking about, making it up as he goes along, based on vague notions he has.
Yeah, the sun or moon or anything else can't have an angular size on his model. Angular size is perspective. Perspective, refraction, and diffraction is not accounted for in globe mathematics.
Observation doesn't work if the moon is only small and 3,000 miles away.
So why would you claim it is, stupid idiot? You should have people like us pointing out how bloody wrong you are, and how flawed it is to assert that.
It does work if the moon is 250,000 miles away.
No, because to get 250,000 miles, you're going to need an R value for an Earth with a geometric capability of deriving that R from the physical sphere edge horizon, an Earth curve, at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. In your begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator. And once you've got that R value, you'll superimpose it onto Venus to get scale with Kepler's third law of orbital assumptions. You understand, Dumbo? Why am I having to educate you on where you get your 250,000 mile moon and 93 million mile sun from? Why am I having to tell you this? You Dumbo. Learn your own religion.
That then presents a problem now.
No, it doesn't. It's a false dichotomy you're attempting to burn with absolutely no knowledge of your own bloody claim, and a failed attempt to describe what you think a flat Earth is, with stupid angles to things that move towards the horizon, changing their height, in your logic, which isn't how the heliocentric model derives a 250,000 mile moon, you Dumbo. You don't know your own religion.
For flat Earth, because...
No, a problem for your straw man.
The sun would also have to be the same distance. You couldn't...
Apparent size doesn't give you actual distance. This stupid straw man isn't our claim.
Have a sun that's 3,000 miles away and the moon 250,000 miles away, because then solar eclipses just...
Sorry, solar eclipses? You're going to assume all of the orbital motions that we've already debunked now superimposed onto an explanation for eclipses? All of that fails too because it requires orbital motion you haven't proven.
Don't work.
No, they don't work if you haven't got an orbital motion to assume.
So the moon, the sun would also have to be at least 250,000 miles away.
No, we don't know what the sun is. And we're not so arrogant as to make a claim about it. You're the one with a positive claim of a 93 million mile sun that you haven't proven.
Which would then mean that the entirety of a flat Earth would be lit all at the same time.
Based on your straw man burning? No, mate. I'm afraid not. Obviously not. I watch the sun come up and then go away. That's what happens daily. It lights my little area and then the area next to me afterwards. That's how it actually appears to work. Work, it does. That doesn't alter the fact that every measurement to it to derive the maps and models that you're burning as strawman flat Earth and not proving a sphere with have come from elevation angle measurements to those lights in the sky, which necessitates it being a flat plane.
Time. Observation 3 kind of ties into observation 2 of this.
It's the same observation. I kind of tied into it. It was the same. I pointed that out when it was the same and you used it in two separate points.
This relevant relative distances.
By relevant, you mean apparent? Because you're doing this based on apparent sizes?
We can view that the moon stays the exact same size.
No. The same apparent size, Dumbo. No, it doesn't further to that. You can see it getting bigger with what is claimed to be atmospheric refraction close to the horizon. Like supermoons and stuff. So even in your own stupid model, this is flawed.
Throughout the night. It crosses all the way across the sky. It doesn't change.
Other than when it does. What Dumbo? It literally... Have you ever actually looked at the moon? Have you ever actually stood outside and looked at the damn thing? Because if you had, you'd know this isn't the case. I hate it when cretins that probably have never even looked at the moon for more than 10 seconds make up crap about what they think it does.
Now, on the flat Earth model,
Straw man.
the idea of the flat Earth
The idea that we haven't claimed and you're going to burn as a straw man.
is that the Earth is staying still and then the moon is transiting above us.
No. From my position, I can see it rise and set. That's it. That's what it does.
Which means that if we see the moon on the horizon, and it then
Sorry, why was it that when he said if we can see the moon on the horizon? Let's just show that again.
model, the idea of the flat Earth is that the Earth is staying still and then the moon is transiting above us, which means
He's about to say when the moon's on the horizon. I hope you can all see the live stream, right? But he's describing. Is this his merch store? Oh, he's got a merch store. Well, he's doing better than I am if he's making money out of merch. Okay, anyway. Does this look like he's on the horizon in his straw man? Why is it up here? What's going on? Is that where you think the horizon is? Is he an idiot? Is he modelled this stupid idiot? Quick shout out to Rubenson again. Says, I want to thank the panelists for their contribution. You can thank them verbally. I'll read it out, but the $2 I am definitely keeping all for myself. Thank you very much for the super chat. 100 people watching. Smash the share button. You can get, I don't know, 110 people watching before the usual scheduled end of the show. We'll continue doing this live. If not, we'll be rounding out in about 10 minutes' time. So smash that share button. Smash, smash, smash. Hey, Adam.
Adam.
means that if we see the moon on the horizon and it then comes up overhead and down across the other side.
Sorry, is it going down and across? It's not doing the things you're describing in this crap orthographic view representation. Furthermore, why is it that I'm seeing the side of my own head? I mean, I've watched the moon plenty of times and I've never seen my own head in view. Ever.
The side. It's going
Why is this orthographic view? What's with this?
from 4, 5, 6,000 miles away up and overhead to only 3,000 miles away.
Yeah, this is our point for how it fails. So the straw man you're burning that we're not claiming, you're describing how it fails as well as providing it as a straw man that we're not claiming. Wow.
And then disappearing back.
Yes.
Just for the audience, if you want, in a minute, I put in the masturbators 2 images, one of the sun and one of the moon. The sun is aphelion and perihelion, and the moon is apogee and perigee. And if you want to compare the altitudes and the sizes, basically, the closer they are to the horizon, the greater the size, if you want to go by those altitudes.
Perfect. Thank you. I had them up on screen. Absolutely perfect. I didn't actually know that was what those descriptions. I vaguely know the word apogee and perigee. I didn't actually know what they meant until now. But what I do know is that they change because I've looked at the bloody thing. Didn't need it labelling. You know what I mean? I know that's the case. You know, this guy doesn't.
You've seen them smaller and bigger. You've seen it smaller and bigger. Like.
I don't need it labelling. I didn't need to have it described as a phenomena for me to go, yeah, it looks bigger sometimes, closer to the horizon. Why? Because I've seen it. Because I've looked at it. This dickhead's got his own bloody head in the shot when he's got the moon being described, and he's taking apart his own straw man for us.
Off to 5,000 or 6,000 miles away. So the moon should actually change in size quite drastically. It should start very small, get big.
It's changing size. No, that's you've just described its elevation changing. Oh, so he's literally undone it based on how we'd undo a stupid flat earther claiming this nonsense of a height to the moon. We go, all right. So when it reaches the horizon, is it at 0? Is it crashing into the ground? Right, but now he's described that it should be getting bigger and smaller. It's like, no, it does actually get bigger and smaller, right? We can actually show that. But you're now superimposing a visual size change to what undoes the claim of angle versus height change. I mean, he doesn't even understand his own logic, it seems.
bigger and bigger and bigger until it gets overhead.
But no, higher and higher and higher. Oh my God. Oh God, it's thick.
And then transit and going smaller and smaller and smaller.
Lower and lower and lower and lower, based on your logic that you just doled out.
But it doesn't do that. It stays the same size, which means...
Stays the same angle, right? It would need to, if you're going to assert this. But it doesn't. It gets closer and closer to the horizon.
that it has to stay the same relevant distance away from the viewer.
Does it? No, it doesn't. We don't know what it is to know how it should behave. You're superimposing your physical assumption bias onto a flat earth straw man that you're burning. I don't know how it should behave. What I know is what you can use it for. How you can get its zenith position, the GP. You can measure angles to it. Those things I do know. It doesn't require I know what it should do. I know what it can be used for and how a flat earth is used to do it.
Which mean it would have to be travelling in an arc above one vantage point.
It does travel in an arc. Oh my God, you have never watched the moon. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but these celestial items, I am fascinated by them. Not so much since I've had children, you just don't have the time, and occasionally when I get time, I'll take my kids outside, get them in the coats when they're all cold, and show them something that the moon's doing, a moon dog or a big spiral around the moon in the middle of the night when it's hazy, things like that. I'll point out to them how it's moving in an arc, how the sun moves in a vector from our position. Now, those are things that I do when I get a chance. Tell my kids to observe. Pay attention to how it's moving now we're in winter. How it moves in an arc. I'm telling my 6-year-old this and you've never even looked at it, have you?
Nathan.
Yes.
Every position of the sun or moon in the sky is in degrees, which can be, which is like a protractor, which is an arc. That's how you would describe it.
It looks like we're going a bit later live, guys. 110 people watching. Thank you so much to you. Smash the share button. It's really important. I really want to get the numbers up after pissing around with a new computer for months, getting it streamlined, and being attacked by Bob Nodell and people like, what's his name, Jaron, and most recently, who's that nobody that's doing it recently, Bev. You know, there's a few people, and it'd be nice to get back up to a consistent 120 to 150 people watching per live show. That would be lovely. But it's sort of, you know, steadily dropped, and now we're getting back up there. 120 people would be the ideal, but 110, fantastic. Thank you for sharing. We will go live a little bit longer.
But it stays the same at every single vantage point. So it would have to be staying at the same distance away from every single vantage point at the exact same time, which again...
Yeah, we don't know. We asked Daily for the distance to the sun. I mean, I could include distance to the moon, but it's just automatically assumed that you understand the principle of these celestial objects we don't know anything about, and us asking for the distance to the sun is the same principle. Shouldn't have to explain that, but I'm going to because you're dumb. Yeah, we don't know the distance to it. You're the only one with a positive claim as a heliocentrist in this regard. You need to defend that claim of a 93 million mile sun. Bearing in mind that I think twice on this show alone, I've gone through how that isn't the case and how we can debunk it. You're going to struggle, mate. But we don't have a positive claim in this regard. And your assumptions about how the moon should work in your own model are wrong. Saying that the apparent size doesn't change. Yeah, it does. You're thick. You've never watched the moon. Go on, whoever that is making a noise. AI Overlord, do you want to pop yourself on mute unless you've got something to add?
Again, does not work for a moon that is only 3,000 miles away.
Or a moon that's changing in elevation as you described it and then decided to change it with size. Apparent size. Thick. He hasn't even thought through his own logic. Oh, unskippable lad. Any comments while we're waiting?
Well, as I said earlier, it's all done in degrees. All of these, when you're taking the angle to the moon, it's in degrees. And that is because if you want to view that orthographically, you have to show it as like a protractor, as an arc, orthographically, because you can't show it in perspective view on a page so easy, on a piece of paper or whatever on a screen. So an arc is like he claimed there was no arc. A moon was making an arc or something like that, or we would have to be making an arc It is, but an arc is an arc of degrees. I don't know. This guy has done no learning about the subject whatsoever.
Yeah,
They never think to their own logic. They just drown it out their mouth.
what's more egregious is getting it wrong about his own model when comparing it to the actual observations of the moon. Now, the reason I say that's more egregious is because in the first instance, the thing that he started off by saying is these are things that you can go out and look at for yourself. Now, for me, it's now glaringly obvious he has never done that. He's never gone out for himself. So what he's doing to share his pain is projecting his own inability to go out and have a look at the moon for himself onto his audience by declaring things incorrectly as being just so. I know you're getting it all wrong, but yet you're like so arrogant, like all anti-flat earthers. Like, oh, it's so obvious when I make up this stupid nonsense that's wrong about how the moon behaves. Clearly, you've never looked at it.
Would always appear to be above that plane, especially one 3,000 miles above that plane. Even if we take a worst case scenario here and say the moon is 3,000 miles above the equator over...
The equator, back to describing something that's a convention derived from a flat plane, and a 3,000 mile high moon that would be defied by... That's why his drawing, by the way, was just across in a straight line, because he didn't need his example to have a curve in it when he was saying it would curve. It does curve, but not in his stupid diagram when it moved in a straight line from the horizon. Just crap. Just thoroughly useless.
For South America.
How many views has this shite got? Where's the view count these days? I never seem to figure out where it is anymore. 103,000 views in 3 weeks from a guy with 35,000 subscribers. 103,000 views. Yeah? Put out any old shite that's anti-flat earth and you'll get 100,000 views. Unbelievable. It's all wrong. Yeah? This is YouTube's preferred content. Guy doesn't understand his own model. 100,000 views. Why? Because you'll get promoted. Type in flat earth. This is likely to come up. If it's been published on the day you type it in, it'll come up first. And rack up 100,000 views. With completely wrong information throughout on both sides of the argument. Both sides of his own straw man have got incorrect information about them. Just shocking. When people ask me in the comments, does it piss you off that Dan gets 200,000 views on a crap video with crap editing? And I go, yeah, it does. Yeah, it really does actually piss me off.
And you're standing on the ice wall on the opposing side of the Earth.
But what ice wall? The projection of an azimuthal equidistant ice wall in a heliocentric globe Earth azimuthal projection converted by Haversine to globe from flat Earth. You're going to put us on an ice... What ice wall? Oh, it's just another straw man that he's regurgitating. I didn't say there's an ice wall. Who said that?
Basic trigonometry, you can see that the viewing angle for the moon is still 14 degrees above the horizon.
Wouldn't that put it lower? Why have you still got it labelled as 3,000 miles?
If you made it all the way to the edge of the world, the moon at its furthest point from you shouldn't be anywhere near the horizon.
Wouldn't this make it lower? Doesn't this kind of eradicate your stupid nonsensical strawman point that you were burning 30 seconds ago? It's lower. So what, lower to the ground? So it's about to crash into the ground, is it? Stupid idiot.
Less. Going below the horizon.
Below the horizon, below the physical geometric sphere edge reified into the edge of Antarctica now. Previously, the horizon was up here when it moved across. Now the horizon's dropping off the edge of a disc. You're the only one with things falling over the edge, mate. Even in your strawman model of a flat Earth, it wouldn't be falling over the edge based on your demonstration of a sun on the horizon starting up here. But now suddenly it's falling off the edge of this pizza pie you've reified and then burnt as a straw man. Why would it be doing that? Given that it stayed exactly the same height above your orthographic view in the last demonstration.
And then staying below the horizon for half a day before reappearing.
Where's Arwin? Arwin says, if you get it really badly wrong, fuck it up enough and they'll give you 100,000 views. Here's your perfect example of it, Arwin. You get it completely arse about face, upside down, back to front wrong, That'll put you right at the top of the bloody lists and give you 100,000 views.
Appearing near you again. Now, some
So now it's going up and down. Wasn't just going round and round or straight across in an orthographic view. Now it's falling over the edge of the fucking ice wall that we haven't claimed.
flat earthers have tried to argue that it's the opacity of the atmosphere.
Right, flat earthers have tried to argue, offers up one person in his comment section. That this dude represents all the flat earthers then, does he? Stereotyping fallacy clown show.
That causes this illusion. Whatever the fucking hell any of that means. If that was the case and there was some fanciful magic going on that would make the atmosphere magnify the...
Sorry, atmo what now? Atmo, that's air. Sphere. Atmosphere. No, air isn't sphere-shaped. Air, atmo, takes the shape of its containment. Why would you beg the question that air is arbitrarily taking the shape of a sphere? Definitely not, my friend. It's you being brainwashed into an assumption that you can have a sphere Earth in a vacuum. Because, well, I assume air takes a sphere shape and doesn't expand into vacuums in line with entropic law. Atmo what now?
The moon to the point of doubling its size at the horizons.
Sorry, again, you said that this wouldn't happen and should if we're on a flat Earth, but it most assuredly is measured to be doing that. Something you said it wouldn't, couldn't, and would have to, based on a flat Earth straw man. So again, I'll just point out this dickhead doesn't ever look at the moon or have the slightest idea what it does. Otherwise, he'd know what it did because he'd have seen it do it.
But not overhead, then whenever I see a plane travel from the horizon, fly overhead and disappear off into the distance, it should also remain the same size. It should appear as big to me on the horizons as it does directly overhead.
Why? You've got a physical assumption bias that the moon is the same as an aeroplane. No, it clearly doesn't behave the same as an aeroplane, so why would assume that it's physical? Or sphere-shaped? Or in an orbit? Or whirling around a sphere-shaped Earth with an R value assumed to be the same as Venus's, to give me a 250,000 mile moon and a 93 million mile sun? Why would I do any of that when it doesn't behave like a plane, as you rightly point out? I mean, you didn't realise that. Your assumption is that it does not change? Yeah, it does. So clearly, by your own admission now, contradiction to one of your points that you made earlier that made no sense, you're now conceding that it does change? What, not in line with our plane, it starts far away and small, comes close. Yeah, that's because you know it's getting closer. But the moon doesn't behave that way, or why would I assume it's a physical rock in a sky vacuum then?
I know, even you can wrap your head around this.
Right, let me get it right. You think the dog has wrapped its head around your fucking logic? Yeah, the dog had a better chance of doing it than you did, because you didn't understand your own logic, which you contradicted twice.
But it doesn't, so atmospheric trickery doesn't seem...
Right, atmospheric, sphere-shaped air trickery. You think there's sphere-shaped air tricking you? No, air isn't taking the shape of a sphere, my friend. It takes the shape of its containment. Were you unaware of gas behaviour when you parroted off this indoctrinated term that you're now using? Atmosphere, sphere-shaped air? That's an oxymoron. Air doesn't take the shape of a sphere, it takes the shape of its containment. Stupid idiot.
To fit into that either. Unless...
So fit into what? Its containment? The sphere-shaped air? Yeah, it'd need containment.
The atmosphere is very selective.
And selective, it's got sentient now, it's deciding where it's going to be.
Of thinking I'm going to magnify...
Right, no, gas doesn't think.
Up to try and...
Lost my
1,000
place
miles above the equator, and there was some fanciful magic going on that would make the atmosphere magnify the moon to the point of doubling its size.
Again, let's just show that. There you go, Dumbo. Maybe have a look at the moon before you make any claims about it next time.
At the horizons, but not overhead, then whenever I see a plane travel from the horizon, fly overhead and disappear off into the distance, it should also remain the same size. It should...
Should it? No, that's not how perspective works, Dumbo. But clearly, the moon isn't doing that, is it? Yeah? So we know where it's at in terms of its zenith, and we can utilise that for the celestial navigation. But as for inferring orbital mechanics, no, you're not going to get away with that.
appear as big to me on the horizons as it does directly overhead. I know, even you can wrap your head around this. But it doesn't. So atmospheric trickery doesn't seem to fit into that either. Unless the atmosphere is very selective of thinking I'm going to magnify the moon today, but I'm not going to magnify a plane.
Just show that for him because he's thick as shit and has never looked at the moon. And then point out that it's not sentient. Atmosphere, sphere-shaped air doesn't decide anything. That's a reification fallacy and an oxymoron.
Observation 4.
You haven't made any observations. I know for a fact you've not done these observations. If you had, there's a good chance, knowing that you were going to make a video, you'd take some pictures of it, of your own.
We only see one face of the moon. Again,
That kind of pisses in the face of it being a sphere, doesn't it?
where in the world we only see one face of the moon.
Where in the world, sorry, wouldn't we see different sides if it was a sphere? Doesn't that kind of undo your begging the question fallacy?
Now, if the moon was 3,000 miles and orbiting the equator, then...
If it's back to the straw man that you're not proving a 93 million mile sun and a 250,000 mile moon, just going to burn the straw man that we're not claiming over and over again.
When you're viewing it from the northern hemisphere, you...
Wait, northern what now? Hemisphere? Where's that? On this flat pizza pie straw man. Clearly you don't understand the language you're using. Hemisphere, sphere-shaped bottom of the world, you assume. Well, number one, that's not on this model, is it, dickhead? Where is the hemisphere? It's not there, is it, Dumbo?
You would see a completely different vantage point than the...
What, if you assumed you're on the bottom of a sphere, you'd have a different vantage point? Yeah, no shit. No kidding. But you have to assume that you're hanging off the bottom of a sphere.
southern hemisphere. You would be looking at opposite sides of...
Oh, you think this demonstrates what seeing things from the bottom of a sphere looks like when you project it onto a flat pancake? No, mate, this isn't the bottom of a sphere. Why are you drawing lines and describing what happens in hemispheres when you're showing it on a flat pizza pie? What a thicko. Do you not understand the words coming out of your own mouth?
The moon. Now, I've seen flat earthers try and argue this away by using the analogy of sticking a picture to the ceiling and looking at it from opposite sides. But these people seem to overlook a small fact that the moon is not a flat picture stuck to the ceiling. It's a...
But it behaves in that way. So they're making an analogy. So if somebody describes something as being as something else, is your criticism, well, it's not that other thing that you've used an analogy? No shit, Sherlock Holmes. Yet we realise that when you turn around and look at the moon from a different position that it might look the other way around. It doesn't mean that we're inferring it's a piece of paper. Are you really going to attack this part of the argument, you stupid cretin?
A three-dimensional object.
Why, when you've just told us that we always see it looking the same from all vantage points? That doesn't infer any 3D sphericity. Quite the opposite.
So if I stick a three-dimensional object to the ceiling...
There's a good chance you'll see the other side of it when you move to the other side of it, right?
From one side, I'm viewing...
Notice how we're seeing the back side of this sphere now. The moon doesn't do that, you stupid shithead. Why are you showing this? The moon does not behave like that. My God, this guy's thick as shit.
This side, from this...
So what, we can see this seam now, like on the arse side of the moon? You can see the back half of it now. So, of the two demonstrations, one did behave like the moon when it was a piece of paper on the ceiling, and one showed the arse side of it. Not the way we see it. What a thicko. Give him 100,000 views, YouTube. Preferred content.
Side, I'm seeing a completely
You see the back side of it?
different face of it.
Yeah, something that doesn't happen. But what if it was a sphere, we'd see the back side of it? So you are essentially debunking the heliocentric moon claim then?
An observation 5.
Sorry, is that the end of the demonstration? You've just debunked the moon in its sphericity in terms of seeing the back side of it, but moving on. Yeah, give him 100,000 views. This is definitely preferred content. I see no reason to give him 1 million.
Basically ties into the previous 4 observations.
Other than it debunked the arse side of the moon being shown in a heliocentric model by your demonstration, you stupid clown. So should I trim this out as a debunking of how the moon isn't spherical based on a heliocentric demonstration that you just gave? What a clown!
We only ever see the one face.
Are you pausing for thought? You should be, because you've just undone a claim of heliocentrism that you detailed personally 2 minutes earlier.
The face changes orientation depending on our latitude. Now,
does it? Right, you've shown this, have you? Thinking not. I don't think when you go to a different latitude you see the arse side of the moon, do you, Dumbo? Like in your demonstration that you just gave us? Are you linking that to the demonstration you gave us? Because that is definitely not the case.
It doesn't work on a flat Earth model.
No. Doesn't work on a globe. You've just shown us how.
Because it basically ties into the previous 4 observations.
That weren't demonstrated in your visual depiction of a sphere moon. It did not work the way you showed it.
The moon can't be 3,000 miles away and only very small.
Nobody's claiming it is other than you, so you're debunking your own stupid claim?
Because you wouldn't see different orientations of the same face.
What, of the same face? Sorry, why'd you say the same face when you showed us the arse side of it in your demonstration, mate? Seems like you're struggling there.
Would be seeing completely different faces depending on...
Yeah, you would on a sphere too.
On your latitude. So the moon would have...
Latitude, back to using a claim that could only be derived from a flat plane elevation angle measurement to these lights in the sky, and those angles don't change with altitude, completely undoing your straw man.
Have to be 250,000 miles away.
Why? Would it have to be 250,000 miles away? For it to be a sphere and show no change?
But with the moon then orbiting 250,000 miles above a flat...
Sorry, orbiting superimposed onto a flat pizza pie. So you've bastardized your original claim that you haven't proven and we can disprove based on your R-value assumption that we have debunked, and your orbital motion that's presupposed and requires that R-value we have debunked, and requires a sphere-shaped surface with a curved edge for things to move behind and down below, all of which we've debunked. But now you're just going to keep burning this stupid straw man over and over again.
At Earth, it's just circling overhead, and we're all on a flat plane. We're all seeing exactly the same thing.
Right, so this is just your claim now. This isn't our claim, dickhead.
The only way that we can see different orientations of the face of the moon that we...
Of the same face of the moon. So, based on this two-dimensional picture, why would you show it in this way? Surely if I go on the back side of this demonstration, I could see the arse side of the moon, couldn't I? Based on this depiction alone, I can show how what you showed a sphere to do on your ceiling would be what I would see from the arse side of this demonstration. I'd see the back side of it from this side, the other side of a sphere Earth. And we don't. We did in your demonstration, though.
We have no control over is if the person's vantage point...
Look at this stupid nonsense, right? So you think people hang antipodal off the bottom of a sphere, do you? In a sky vacuum? This is idiotic. Seeing it drawn by a numpty really does highlight how stupid the assertion is. Hanging upside down antipodal on the bottom of a sphere Earth. It looks absolutely ludicrous.
Is a different orientation, which only works on a globe.
What? Seeing the arse side of the moon would work, but you don't. So therefore you superimpose a massive distance based on an R-value we've debunked, and an edge to a horizon we've also debunked, and an orbital motion that we've debunked.
So the observations that we can make of the moon don't
prove that you're on a flat plane if you're using them for anything actually applicable, like navigation, which you can, and you need flat Earth elevation angle measurements. That's a practical demonstration of what you can do with the moon, as opposed to just looking at it, which you haven't. That's blatantly obvious.
Don't fit to flat Earth models.
No, don't fit to your flat Earth straw man. That you didn't understand and implied faulty logic when taking it apart, and debunked your own side of the straw man when you hung up a sphere and showed the back side of it.
You can make it account for some observations, like...
You can make it account for some observations, can you? Well, you can wrestle with your own cognitive pain when it comes to flat Earth, mate. This ain't my claim.
moving the moon much further away.
No, we don't have to do that. We ask for you, the guy with the positive claim, to justify your distance to your celestial item you're using.
Then that means that your observations of the moon versus the sun don't fit, so you have to move the sun.
Fit with what? We haven't got to have them fit with anything. They fit with celestial navigation, based on where they are above at a given time. That's called their GP, ground position. Where you look up at the moon if you were there and it was above you at your zenith. That's useful. You can do things with it. Navigate, save your own life if you get lost at sea. That's what you can do with the moon. You describing what you can look at when you haven't is absolutely pathetic. It's not a practical demonstration of anything. It's not useful for anything beyond you getting past your cognitive pain when you contemplate flat Earth badly.
Further away, but then the observations that we make of the sun versus what it is able to light of the Earth.
Which observations are those? Show me one that you've made. Oh, you haven't? Yeah, we can tell.
At any one time, then don't fit. Every time.
No, we can show examples on your maps that claim to be spherical that don't work. Like Selenian. Like the impossible eclipse. We can show things that actually don't work. You didn't do that. You burnt examples in a flat Earth straw man that we aren't claiming, as you wrestle with your incomprehension of a flat plane. Shout out to Skeptic936, who says, thanks for extending the show, Nathan. Absolutely my pleasure. When I can get the show to be shared more and get more people in front of it, I'm more than happy to stay live. Thank you for sharing it.
Time a flat earther moves the goalposts of the flat Earth model to try and...
Moves the goalposts of your flat Earth model. So what you're saying is if somebody disagrees with your flat Earth burning straw man model, that's moving the goalposts, is it? The goalposts that you set up on your pitch with your team, with your sponsor, you think we're moving those goalposts, you dickhead? Now learn what a straw man is. It's a fallacy, idiot.
Explain one argument, they open up a can of worms of another observation that then doesn't fit.
So no, we did it with your observation that didn't fit. You gave us an example and showed how it didn't fit. That's not me opening up a can of worms, it's you.
So they have to then move the goalpost again. So basically
What goalpost did I move? You gave a demonstration that was clear and obvious of seeing the arse side of a sphere. And then detailed how you wouldn't have that on a flat Earth, but didn't explain how you would have it on a globe. You hand-waved the fact that you don't have it on a globe. That's a total fail.
There's no one flat Earth model. The flat Earth model is...
Right, all flat Earth models, in quotes, have all come from the same origin. They've all come from angle measurements off a flat plane to the lights in the sky. Something you clearly didn't realise. So any of the globe models you hold up and reify, not that we've ever seen an actual working globe model, but they've all come from, in the case of maps, flat Earth elevation angle measurements. This is so above this guy's pay grade. This is for my audience only, because this dumb fuck's never going to understand any of this.
Basically fluid. Constantly having to change depending on which particular...
Really? You think celestial navigation has changed? No, mate. When I lay down a flat Earth proof, it's based on something that's been done for a considerable amount of time and has saved lives. A practical application of a flat Earth elevation angle measurement. That's what I use. Do you want to debunk that and tell me it's changed? It's fluid? That I'm moving the fucking goalposts? When I say now you can measure angles off a flat plane to lights in the sky and work out where the hell you are by drawing two-dimensional circles on two-dimensional maps.
The problem they are trying to solve.
And what problem? The problem of navigation's been solved by way of elevation angle measurements to the lights in the sky and having a really good understanding of where they'll be above at what time. So no change needed, mate.
Which leads us to only one clear conclusion.
Earth's flat, you need elevation angle measurements to navigate it. Earth's flat, you build on it that way, with levels. Earth's flat, you haven't got orbital motions unless you assume an R value we've debunked, and a geometric physical limitation to your view at the horizon we've also debunked, and assume that what perspective somehow works into a debunking of a straw man when your model doesn't include it? You have failed so badly. Again, I'll just point this out to YouTube. Give him 100,000 views. This is preferred content.
Either the people who are advocating that the Earth is flat don't actually believe their own bullshit, and they know...
Sorry, the people who are navigating on a flat plane when they use the stars to find their way around? You talking to them? Like experienced navigators that save people's lives? Those people? Are you talking to them, dickhead?
Full well that the Earth can only work as a globe.
What, when they measure a flat Earth elevation angle measurement to a light in the sky to figure out where they are with triangulation? Do you think they know it's a sphere when they measure an angle from a flat plane with a sextant? I don't think you know much about this subject, do you, my friend?
They just fancy having a giggle.
Fancy a giggle about lives being lost if we don't find our fucking way when lost at sea, and use flat Earth elevation angle measurements to the lights in the sky to find out where the hell we are on a flat map, because they're all flat. They must be to work in this way. When navigating the flat plane we actually are living on, my friend. That's not us having a giggle. Nobody's giggling when they're lost at sea and they need a sextant to save their lives. And they need a flat Earth appreciation to do it with. Nobody's laughing then, my friend. We're laughing at you, though, for being a clown and showing a sphere and the arse side of it when detailing what a sphere doesn't do.
Or B, they do genuinely think that the Earth is flat.
We know it's flat. It's navigated that way. Look into celestial navigation, you total clown.
In which case, for the sake of society, they probably shouldn't be allowed to operate anything sharper than a spoon.
Really? So based on the fact that you're a completely incompetent buffoon, I suggest that you should be locked up and gang raped in prison. Because that's totally reasonable. Not given the permission to use heavy equipment. So you're saying that as a part of society, I should be limited for my understanding of celestial navigation? What fucking outrage.
Anyway.
Sorry, isn't that prejudicing and somehow? Isn't that bullying? Isn't that totally unreasonable by the standards of the YouTube terms of service?
Oh, that's actually discrimination.
Yeah.
It is discrimination.
So he's inciting discrimination against a group of people based on their understanding of how celestial navigation works. You think we should be limited from using heavy equipment? So would you class a boat out at sea as heavy equipment? When the guy tells the captain which fucking way to point the boat after using a sextant and measuring angles from a flat plane, do you think it shouldn't be the case that he should be allowed to tell the captain which direction to point the boat in? That's pretty fucking heavy. So, this dickhead thinks you should sack navigators because the boats, which are classed as heavy equipment, shouldn't be pointed in a given direction because they know they're measuring a flat plane when they take angles from it. It can't be working any other way. But this clown says should be sacked. Dickhead, next time you're out on a boat or in an aeroplane and they lose all the equipment and navigation ability, their last resort's a sextant and a flat plane measuring angle device. But they should be sacked also, should they, as a plane heavy equipment when they get out their sextant to measure a flat plane on the plane, in their aeroplane. Yeah,
Nathan,
dickhead?
Is this sorry for interrupting.
No, go ahead.
Is this guy saying that flat earthers shouldn't be allowed to operate heavy machinery?
Yes.
What, like tower cranes and aeroplanes?
Yes, that's what he's saying.
The tower cranes. 1 second, sorry. Yeah, do tower cranes move around like pendulums due to the Earth moving?
No, they do not.
No, because the Earth's not moving. Do airplanes and airplane pilots account for Earth curvature or rotation?
No, they do not. Neither.
So that would be heavy machinery, would it not? That
yes, it would. Yes.
Responsibility.
Yes.
Okay, they're all flat earthers then, other people that operate then.
Yeah. According to this dickhead who's prejudicing people and saying that they should be limited in their scope of employment, he gets the 100,000 views, doesn't he? What an outrage. So you would limit these people that potentially saving your lives and building the buildings that you're living in? You would limit them, would you, you stupid clown? No, I'd limit you.
That concludes this particular video.
Conclusion, you're a dickhead. I'd sooner see you removed from YouTube for terms of terms of service violations. You know, it's just an outrage. You're basically bullying an entire group of people. And based on their understanding of how to navigate a flat plane, you'd have them out of a job. You would cause people to die. Because if the guy's saying, yeah, of course we measure elevation angle measurements from a flat plane, it's the only way we can do it. It's how it's done. Sack him immediately! That would be your attitude, right? Kick him off the boat.
Right,
You'd have people die. This man would have people die sooner than concede that the Earth's measured flat and navigated flat. He'd sooner die at sea.
Right? He didn't actually have a technical reason why we shouldn't. He's just like, oh, you disagree, or we disagree, and so you just got demoted. You lose your rights. That's real discrimination, because it's not like, oh, because this is what you do, therefore you might risk here in that situation. No. Just you disagree with us. Oh, you just got demoted. You're
This
not
is
allowed
unacceptable.
to do this anymore.
A societal standard, this is unacceptable. How flat earthers are treated, how it is deemed acceptable to prejudice us and limit us. This is unacceptable. Society should not tolerate this. Why is it that this guy thinks it's acceptable to limit the scope of anybody's potential based on what they understand about the nature of Earth? Regardless of whether he thinks they're right or wrong, that should not be allowed.
But just replace the word flat earther with another category. For example, a religious category or a race category, and you'll start to hear what we're talking about. It's really the flat earth that just woozes things up in people's minds that they don't recognize it. But just exchange the words they've been using and you'll see it. You'll see what it is.
Yeah.
How bad it is.
Substitute in Allah for flat earth and see the fucking outrage that you have to face. Yeah? Replace it with any group, the attitude that this guy's just taken, and see what happens. Right? But because we're not a protected group, it's acceptable to say, limit that person's, because they're in a group, ability to do X. What an absolute outrage. This should not be acceptable in a reasonable society. It isn't acceptable. With that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. With my outrage, I'll say, though, a massive thank you to today's Discord and G Plus panels for making today's live show possible. I've been Nathan Oakley. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching an after show, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!